Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/entitled people for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Kai Bear 106, entitled customer gets insta karma at the coffee shop. So today, I was at Starbucks, just enjoying my morning, when a woman stormed in demanding a venti caramel macchiato with extra foam. First, you're rude as fuck, and didn't even wait in line. Then she started berating the barista because they didn't have the right kind of caramel syrup. She was calling him incompetent and complaining that the store was ruining her entire day. As she was finishing her rant, she slipped on the wet floor by the counter, no one had noticed the spill yet, and landed straight on her behind. The entire cafe went silent for a moment. Me? I creaking cackled. She threw me a nasty glare, but her face was red from embarrassment. The barista, still with a smile, handed her the drink she had ordered. She took a long, awkward sip, obviously trying to act like nothing had happened, but you could tell it was a humbling moment for her. Moral of the story, karma doesn't take long to show up when you're rude to people. So, as humorous as this is, my biggest concern is that the Karen can now just turn around and sue the Starbucks for, well, negligence, because they didn't properly identify a spill, put a wet floor sign out, or mop it up. Or is that just like a general myth? Like, because the spill wasn't identified, and she slipped on it, could she sue for that? I mean, I assume, well, okay, I know the answer. Yes, she can sue for that. But can she win the suit? That's the important part. Like, unfortunately, her mistreatment of the baristas getting its just punishment shortly moments after might actually end up with her getting a tasty lump sum of cash because they didn't properly identify a spill on the floor. So, fuck. Let's just hope that she learns her lesson not to scream at baristas about having the right kind of caramel syrup and doesn't decide to make their lives hell. Because I can only imagine that in response to finding out that employees didn't properly section off a wet floor area, that the Starbucks location/branch would probably just end up firing the people responsible. So, unfortunately, the Karen might actually just get what she wants, which is unfortunate because of her mistreatment of the baristas. Saving hookahs. 3 DUIs later. This might not even be the right Reddit thread to post about, but I have to start somewhere. I, 27 female, got rear-ended by a drunk driver who ended up fleeing the scene. I was the second car at a stoplight, fully stopped, when all of a sudden I have the living daylights knocked out of me. When I went up to the guy's car, he sat there, drunk. When I was on the phone with the police, mind you, he was so drunk he wouldn't have known what I was saying, he got back into his car and gunned it, running a red light. The damage to my car was expensive and I didn't have it for almost 3 weeks. I sustained a concussion, I couldn't move my neck for 3 months, I had severe back pain where I could barely work, in addition, I suffered short-term memory loss. I couldn't get my words or thoughts together, and there was one day I was on one of the main highways and I forgot how to get home. Luckily, a bystander got the guy's license plate and the cops took a statement on the scene, but this guy still hasn't gotten charged despite us having all the info. My car insurance already went up the prior year, and even though hit and runs don't affect your record, that's bullshit because they do. Anyways, I went CIA agent to be 5 steps ahead, and I found the guy's phone number, address, email, Instagram, and former criminal record. Turns out if the guy didn't commit a hit and run, this would have been his 3rd DUI in the last decade. He also previously hit a car a couple months before my accident. Apparently, backed into them in a parking lot like a dumb fuck. Oh, and the cherry on top? 2 weeks after the accident, he posted that he was at a tailgate, and you guessed it, drinking. I don't care about the money aspect. Insurance fixed my car and I have a decent health insurance that got me PT and chiropractics. I'm not fully back to normal, but it could have been worse. Even with all my resources, I still struggled. Between not having a car for 3 weeks to the anxiousness I get when driving. What I do care about is getting this fucker off the road and cause him inconveniences like he did to me. I can't imagine if this happened to someone else. Again, I was really lucky that I had a good support and good resources because if I didn't, I would have been fucked. So if you have any tips/legal revenge ideas to calm down this entitled fuck, please drop them here. Also, if you know any places that spam emails like crazy, please let me know. I'm going to sign his ass up. Feel free to comment on the video or even go to the link in the description and go to the post and leave a comment there if you have any fun ideas to give OP. Personally, I think they should probably look into what options their state provides for reporting unsafe or drivers that, should just not be on the road. I know Colorado and California have those, but it depends from state to state. Also, unfortunately, the reason why the cops probably didn't charge him is because they probably couldn't prove he was the one actually driving the car. Yeah, it sucks, but at the same time, it's just kind of how it works. What you can do, though, is if you have his email and phone number, the most annoying thing you can possibly do is sign him up for websites that are known for selling information to data brokers. They'll do the rest for the annoyances. If you also want to, and I don't know if this is even legal, because you have his address, find out his path to work. See if there's any billboards that allow you to have, some real estate space to put an ad up. And just simply, it might cost like $1,000 or so, put up an ad that just says DUI guy with his face on it. That's probably illegal. But good God, would that teach him a lesson? Ashagi Toshi. Entitled patient demands to be seen during a medical emergency. I just saw a similar-ish post that reminded me of this unfortunate memory. This was a few years ago now, but it never fails to aggravate me. I used to work as a receptionist at a fairly busy medical clinic. It was the day before a major holiday, so the mood was jolly, and it was an uncharacteristically slow day in the office. We had a patient and his wife no-show in the morning, no phone call, no reschedule, no nothing. Naturally, after about half an hour, their appointment is canceled. Things are running smoothly until we see a patient who is recently released from the hospital and is following up with us. They look extremely unwell. By this point, my spidey senses are tingling that something is about to go down. Mid-doctor's visit, the patient suddenly loses consciousness and begins coding. Cardiac arrest. Everything is in literal chaos. The doctor and medical assistant are performing CPR while I'm on the phone frantically trying to get EMS out there ASAP. The spouse is crying and screaming. The patients are slowly trickling in to witness this all in plain sight. Naturally, most people were kind and concerned, giving us space to work, silently signing in their names and taking a seat. Of course, it's during all of this frenzy that the entitled patient walks in. As I'm finishing up my emergency call, they begin tapping repeatedly on the glass. Entitled patient, "Hey, we're here for our appointment. I hope the wait isn't going to be long. Also, it's very rude that you were on the phone when we walked in." Me, I apologize. As you can see, we're currently in the middle of an emergency. Also, your appointment was over 2 hours ago. It's already been canceled. Entitled patient, "Yeah, I know we're a little late, but can't you guys just fit us in somewhere? I mean, we're already here now. Why can't we just have that person who's dying on the floor's appointment? They're not going to be using it." Their actual words. Me, what the fuck? No, that's not how this works. Your appointment is canceled and you're going to have to reschedule for another day. We're currently dealing with a life or death emergency. Entitled patient, "Wow, this is such bull. Unbelievable. You guys could have squeezed us in this whole time. It would have taken like 5 minutes tops. The doctor could have seen us while the paramedics handled the other person. You all just wasted our time. We're never coming back to your office." And thank God. As long as I worked there, I never did see them again. Oh, and thankfully our patient survived and is doing great. I had to reread and reattempt to read that line from the entitled patient numerous times because I could not even fathom that came out of someone's mouth. And this is one of those things where, as I was reading that, I just kept thinking, there is no fucking way that was actually said. But then I remembered, if someone did utter words like that, the most likely place that it would end up being reported on would be in this subreddit. So, unfortunately, it's kind of in that position where I really hope to God there's not someone out there who looked at someone die and go, "Can I have his patient spot? That'd be great." But at the same time, out of in America, there's 360 million people. The idea of there not at least being one person who's not selfish enough to say that is highly unlikely. Posted by Indigo Heart 2003, my cousin's selfishness is ruining her own life. And this one actually has multiple parts to it, so we're going to be looking through some of these. To start with, I'm not American. I'm from Argentina, just in case some people wanted to give legal advice here or something. and as an excuse for my trashy English, lol. My grandma passed away last month at the sweet age of 96 years old. My mom was there with her at the hospital and called the whole family so we could say goodbye to her. My mom was devastated because a nurse blamed her for my grandma's death, so you can imagine how angry and sad we were. Well, at that precise moment, my cousin started demanding the house keys so she could go to pick her stuff up. She was moving from my house because her good-for-nothing boyfriend didn't want to live there due to it being ugly, and because they didn't want to get a job to help with the household expenses. So they both decided to move back with my cousin's abusive father and his girlfriend, who was his lover while my aunt was going through a very aggressive chemo before passing away last year. She kept yelling at me until I just gave her my keys because I had no energy for that shit, and my mom was right there having a mental breakdown. Of course her boyfriend was with her. Once I gave her my keys, they went to my house to pick up their stuff, or that's what I thought. I slept at my mom's house that night because my house was an hour and a half away. It was too late to go home alone, and I didn't want to leave my mom alone, so I couldn't go to my house until it was the next day. Once I saw my house, I was furious. These two pieces of crap didn't take only their stuff, but also took valuables of mine, including clothes, tools, and wine bottles of my stepdad, my air pump for cycle, and even our grandma's blood pressure monitor. My mother and I confronted her, and she justified herself, saying she needed money to afford food for her and her boyfriend since they have no job, because her father doesn't want to give her money. My mom was a carpet for my cousin, but this ended it all for her. We made sure the whole family knew about this, and they are all furious too. We all repudiate her now. The last thing I heard about her was that her father almost gets aggressive with her in an argument caused by my cousin being arrested for driving her dead mother's motorcycle the wrong way while under the influence of substances. She's not even living in my aunt's house, but in one of the second-floor rooms that her father rents. I heard one of the other tenants saw her doing it with her boyfriend and their friend with the door ajar. She abandoned the university, and I heard she is on substances. She's selling her dead mother's jewelry to afford food because we're not helping her this time. What a shame. Her parents' broken record was always that I would be the failed cousin because I didn't have high grades like her in high school, lol. We've got a few more of these that we're going to cover today, but just wanted to kind of establish what kind of person OP's cousin is. The kind of person that the moment after your grandmother dies, they request your keys so they can move out. Well, more of demanding your keys. Then they go to your place, steal your shit, then sell it, because they can't afford food, because they refuse to get a job. Indigo Heart, 2003. My cousin's selfishness is ruining her own life. A chip off the old block. Not an update, I'm just bringing up a possible cause of my cousin's entitled behavior and mindset. Go read my last post for context. My cousin, let's call her Mia, was always disgustingly lazy and selfish with everyone, including her oncological mother. But this behavior was allowed by the entire family and actively promoted by her father. Despite her generally flawed personality, Mia was a genius academically. She always had impeccable grades. She used to be obsessed with it. On the other hand, I've never been a very good student in high school. I had no learning issues, I was just lazy when it came to academics, and since I wasn't planning to go to university but to work, it didn't matter as long as I didn't fail the whole grade. In Argentina, universities are public and don't require you to have had a high grade point average in high school to apply anyway. The thing is, she and her parents always thought she was an untouchable deity due to her academic achievements. You can already guess where this is going. We both were raised practically as sisters, so you can imagine how close we were since we can remember. Since we were kids, Mia treated her own mom like shit, insulting her, demanding stuff and making fun of her. She wouldn't help her with the slightest chore either. This always angered me. The worst part is that her father used to rebuke my aunt every single time she tried to discipline her. If my aunt forced her to even take out the trash or clean her room, prepare for Troy to burn. Mia would run and tell her father how her mother mistreated her. They'd also let Mia mock me about my grades. They themselves used to make jokes and hurtful comments about it since I was little. It really used to affect me when I was a child, but since I was a teenager, I couldn't care less. Even with this, they really tried to make me feel bad about it. No, they weren't worried about my future at all. Actually, they were happy about my failures because then they could compare me with their daughter and criticize the poor upbringing my mother was giving me, lol. Once they even told me I was going to be Mia's maid when we grew up. I was 7, by the way. My uncle, let's call him the Sorete for now, used to treat my aunt like a servant rather than a partner, and this behavior extended to Mia. Imagine letting your oncological wife/mother do all the chores without helping her at all or even accompanying her during her chemotherapy. I dare to say I was a daughter from my aunt more than Mia. Even though how they treated me, I've always loved her as a second mother. Now I comprehend she was only a carpet for the Sorete and Mia. Mia has the worst of both of her parents. She's a cynical, a freeloader, and an ungrateful being as her father, and a pick-me carpet for her boyfriend who only uses her like her mother was for her husband. Sometimes I feel bad for her, even though I know I shouldn't. I have to admit I used to be a carpet for my family just like my mother, but it's over. So I guess we now understand where Mia gets her behavior from. She's been entirely enabled by her father since she was a child, and now it's progressed into how she acts as an adult. Is there any way to, fix a child/adult who was raised in this kind of mentality and now has that, brain chemistry built up? Is there a way to deprogram that, or are they just gonna kind of act like that for the rest of their life at this point? I mean, I've spoken at length about my fears about, having a child and that child turning out, poorly because of my mistakes as a parent. And while I don't think I would ever make a mistake like this, it is something that still definitely just spooks me. Is it possible to help someone overcome this mindset and behavior to make them, a better person? Because it's pretty clear that Mia has been entirely just corrupted by her father's way of parenting, of your mother's supposed to handle all the bullshit while you and I get to have a great time. And worst part is, as we'll soon learn, this bleeds into even when their mother passes from cancer. It's incredibly frustrating. So let's take a peek at that. Indigo Heart 2003. My cousin's selfishness is ruining her own life. My aunt's decease. My aunt passed last year after a long battle against cancer. She was diagnosed when Mia and I were 13 years old in 2017. If you're thinking Mia's behavior changed once her mom was diagnosed, then you're wrong. Mia was a terrible daughter till the end. Imagine a 21-year-old demanding her mother, who is literally dying of cancer, to iron her clothes and clean her room, and yelling at her if she doesn't. She couldn't care less about her own mother, but once my aunt passed, her world collapsed because she lost her full-time maid. I'm not being mean or assuming anything, I swear, every single time Mia grieved for her mom, she would only mention the things my aunt used to do for her. My aunt's decease was unexpected. In that time, she had recently completed a treatment after having had surgery in August of last year. She passed at the end of March. Her medical checkup results indicated normal tumor indices until they suddenly skyrocketed. So, she was admitted to the hospital, where she underwent further medical checkups. It took almost 2 weeks to receive the results while she was still admitted. Once she received the results, she also received the bad news that the cancer had metastasized and was throughout her body. She passed at dawn the next day she received the terminal diagnosis. The only consolation I have is her decease was relatively merciful. She had a sudden cardiac arrest instead of agonizing for months. Yes, as you can imagine, Mia hardly ever visited her, and my uncle didn't visit her even once. Later I found out from my mother, the man complained to her that my aunt wasn't home to take care of him and do the chores the way he liked it. My mother, who was taking care of my aunt that night, called the Sorete, my uncle's nickname, go read my last post for context, that morning to take Mia and me to the hospital so we could say goodbye. Those 2 weeks I was staying at my aunt's house to take care of my grandma, the pets, clean and cook while she was in the hospital, so I was with them at the time. Guess what? The Sorete didn't want to take me to the hospital. He left only with Mia on his motorcycle after telling me the car was broken down so he couldn't take us both. Yes, he lied. I arrived at the hospital 40 minutes late because I had to take an Uber that, on top of all, cost me the equivalent of 40 USD, and I'm not kidding. The hospital was in Capital Federal. My mom was furious about this but didn't say anything because it wasn't the right moment. The whole family gathered and comforted the Sorete. Mia hurt herself and I was asked to take care of her, so I did because I loved her as a sister. For a few weeks I took care of them because they both were grieving a wife/mother. They didn't owe me those things, but they totally ignored all I've done. The sorete even said we've never done anything for him. The audacity. My aunt told us on several occasions that she didn't want to be buried but cremated. So that's what we did. The thing is, weeks went by and the sorete never went to pick up the ashes. He said he wasn't ready. He looked for the house papers and information about the surviving spouse state pension. It's not exactly that, but I don't know how to refer to this pension properly in English, before going to pick up my aunt's ashes, lol. What a lovely family, huh? Honestly, it would break my heart if when one of my family members passed, finding out that the family closest to them, whether it's a child or a spouse, is more upset that they're not around to do chores anymore and now they have to fill in the gaps than, the actual loss of someone that's close to them and important to them. From what we've read, it sounds like OP's family is just full of wonderful people, and hopefully one day they'll learn to be a lot less self-centered in their day-to-day life, because it's honestly a damn shame that OP's aunt passed, and the main thing that her immediate family has to remember her by is her essentially being a maid. What do you guys think? The audience, do you guys have any input on this? Do you have any stories of family members that fall into this category? I'd love to hear. Goblin and Beast. College student wants payment after she forgot her laptop. My brother Nate runs an electronics store in our small town and offers electronic repairs. Last year, around June or July, this girl came into his shop needing her laptop repaired. It was an Alienware gaming laptop and it looked relatively new. The girl said that the battery wasn't charging anymore. Nate said it looked like something was inserted into the charging port that shouldn't have been, and the port had been damaged. Nate told her that he would have to order parts and it might take a week or more before it's fixed. She said that was fine and started filling out the paperwork. She then mentioned she wouldn't be in town to pick it up, so the phone number was for her mother, and she could come get the laptop when ready. Nate said that was fine, and he'd put a note in his system. Fast forward 3 weeks, and it's fixed. Nate goes to call the number, and it says the number has been disconnected. We live in a small town, but neither of us recognized this girl to try and track down her folks, so it sat for a few months. Nate has a policy in the contract that says, any repaired item not picked up within 90 days of completed service will be put up for sale by the business and can be sold. Nate gave her an additional month before putting it up for sale. He got an offer the same day he put it on the shelf, and it was sold as a refurbished. Fast forward to last Thursday, the girl finally showed up to get the laptop. She left to go to college and was in town for a long weekend and found out her mom never got the laptop. Turns out the girl wrote down the wrong number. She's pissed that it got sold and is now demanding my brother pay her $2,000 so she can buy a new one. So, that sucks. I'm just gonna be honest, that does suck to be in that situation where you put down the wrong number and your laptop gets sold. However, I can't blame the shop for doing that, because in the 4 months that she had to check in, well, technically almost 5 because he gave her an extra month and the repair took 3 weeks, so roughly 5 months in total. In that time, she never thought once to call and be like, hey, did my mom pick my laptop up? Or call her mom and be like, hey, did they ever finish fixing my laptop? And if not, calling the shop and be like, hey, why is it taking 4 months for you to fix my laptop? If you're bringing your $2,000 laptop in for repairs and you just don't even check on it to make sure that it actually made it through the repairs, that definitely is just irresponsible. And yeah, it sucks that it got sold, but at the same time, I can't even imagine bringing a device in and just leaving it there for 4 months and not even once questioning, why the hell is this taking so long? Even if you do call in and are worried about being annoying, the worst that they will say is, yeah, we're still waiting on parts and repairs. But it does give the opportunity to find out if, let's just say, I don't know, you wrote down the wrong number to give to them. MD Warka 2000. Woman throws a fit after she loses her turn to see the doctor. This woman signed her name in to see the doctor. She was one of the first people to sign in. I don't know what the conversation was, but she told the medical assistant that she was leaving, so we all thought that she was no longer seeing him. So we canceled her and took her name off the list. An hour later, she comes back after a long list of people have signed in, asking to see the doctor for 5 minutes, that she needs her medication, and speak with him about it. We explained to her that she left the office and we canceled her, so now she has to wait in line to see the doctor. She leaves and then comes back several minutes later to proclaim how we have upset her. The manager came out and explained to her that she left. The woman says how she left to go somewhere. The manager says to her that she can't just pop back up and expect to see the doctor ahead of everyone else who signed in after she left. That's not how it works, and it's not fair to the rest of the patients. She said something along the lines of, "I know what I see," and storms out. Why are people like this? This actually brings up a really old memory of mine that I had when I was maybe like 9 years old, and my mother had taken me to a clinic for some kind of just, general checkup as being a 9-year-old. And we were about 15 to 20 minutes late to the appointment. The appointment was supposed to be 15 to 20 minutes. So we arrived late. They no longer had the slot available, and I remember sitting in the waiting room for a while, watching, I think it was the Penguins of Madagascar TV show, if I remember correctly. I don't know. That's one of those weird, memory connection things that was just there. But anyways, I remember my mom had gotten into a small altercation with the lady at the counter, and then dragged me out of there and was complaining about how they weren't willing to see us because we were X amount of minutes late. Me, being 9, I agreed with my mother. I thought that was unreasonable. And I remember later when I was at my dad's, because of the whole week on, week off thing with divorced parents, in some kind of comment, I don't remember the exact conversation where it came up with, but I had mentioned this specific instance to my stepmother about how it was unfair of them not to see my mother and I after we were 20 minutes late. And my stepmother actually explained to me that, yeah, we were 20 minutes late. It's to be expected. We missed our appointment time. Were they just supposed to move other people around so they could accommodate us and our poor scheduling ability? And that really stuck with me for my entire life, and definitely gave me a new perspective on things. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.